Hello, everyone. It's Elena back this week for this week's episode of the Financial Planner Live podcast. And I am joined by Jasmine Lambert, Managing Director of Redwood Financial. So good morning, Jasmine. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me this morning. So as always, if we could begin by you just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I am a financial planner and I run Redwood Financial. We're a family-owned business, actually. So Dad started the company, probably back in like 1999 now. But since 2014, I've been the managing director. So I kind of deal with the day-to-day running of the business, as well as sort of seeing clients as well. Yeah.
Fab. So to begin with, you specialise in wills, trusts and pensions, don't you?
Yeah. So the traditional financial planner type services, particularly around pensions and investments, are our sort of two core areas. But then I suppose what makes us a little bit different or a little bit unique is also that addition to the estate planning side of things. So advising clients on wills, lasting powers of attorney, trusts, those kinds of things as well. Yeah.
So how did that come about? Because we discussed it previously. How did you sort of specialise or hone in on that skill set as such?
Yeah, I think it was just very organic, or it felt at the time a very organic sort of evolution, really, of we spent a lot of time sort of helping to clients to grow their wealth, talking about investments and pensions and building that wealth up. And we kind of felt that there was sort of a missing piece of the puzzle, and we're not helping clients to then protect that wealth. And, it was that typical process at annual review stage. We tell the client, look, you really should get your will updated. Or have one, because some of them didn't even have one. And then we'd see them 6 months or a year later and they still didn't have a will in place because they hadn't got around to seeing anyone. Or if we did see them and they had a will, it was that very typical kind of just leave everything to each other and then down to the kids type situation. They hadn't actually received any advice around things like inheritance tax planning or care fee planning, or protecting the family bloodline and keeping that money inside the family. And so we really felt like there was sort of a space in the market, I think, to give clients that much more holistic advice and say, actually, let's just not just build the wealth for the sake of building it. Let's build it with the goal to then enjoy it, but also whatever you do pass down to the next generation, let's make sure it's safe and protected for them and it goes down in the most tax efficient way possible. So it really, as I say, now we do it, it just seems like it's an obvious natural fit and an obvious natural synergy, really. But that's kind of how it started sort of 10 years ago now. And then, as you say, it's become a really massive core part of our business.
And I think it's funny that you use the word holistic there, because as you just touched on to begin with, financial planning can very often be viewed as building your wealth to a certain point. May that be through investment, or obviously building your wealth so at retirement age you've got that nice little pension sort of all set up and ready. But as you just touched on, the wills, the estate planning side of things really allows you to tie into this holistic model of financial planning. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just so much more powerful as well, because we actually get to see the money and the wealth that you've helped that client build in action. Because when that time comes and the client passes away, you're able to then support the family and watch that money then pass down to the next generation and be an integral part of that advice process as well, which the families are really grateful for. But you really get to see it. You get to see the kids paying off their mortgage, or reinvesting some for their own financial freedom. It's a really positive, and I think we have much more impact when we can cross those generations as well.
Yeah, I can imagine, as you touched on then, through that long-term sort of planning, you can really add value to your clients as such.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as you just touched on, financial planning in general is so different to how it used to be. It's all about funding your children through university, planning for your dream holiday. So absolutely. I can imagine that side of things, the inheritance tax planning, the estate planning, all sort of combined allows you to really play on this holistic financial planning model, because as you just said, it's intergenerational. You can look after your children. It's not just about the here and now and what you're going to get next year as such.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never met any client that's just wanting to build wealth for the sake of building wealth. There's always some kind of goal and objective, whether it's for themselves, as you say, that, once in a lifetime holiday, or to retire early. But then once those things are kind of done, it then becomes about, well, we're building wealth to help our kids. That's, like you say, to help them on the property ladder, help them through university, whatever those costs are. And so there's always some goal, and invariably, if you have children, it's a very expensive thing, and it normally is about helping the kids. So yeah, like you say, we found it hugely powerful, and it just really ties in with everything that our clients are looking to achieve anyway.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. And as we just touched on, financial planning is so much more complex than potentially it used to be, and being able to offer that intergenerational support and being there not just for your clients but their children as well, potentially even their grandchildren, is really, really powerful. And that's what you're doing now, Jasmine. So how did you get to this point? Would you like to sort of discuss to the audience like your career journey as such? How did you get to sort of the point that you are today?
Yeah, when you say like the career journey, it makes me feel so old at this point. But yeah, I mean, like you say, everyone's got their own journey, I suppose, their own story, and I suppose for me, the thing that is a little bit different is kind of choosing not to go down the university route, and that being a very conscious decision really at the time. So, I think probably like most financial planners, I fell into the profession. I fell into it and then fell completely in love with it. I didn't expect this to be my career at all. But yeah, I started, I was at college, I was doing my A-levels, I was studying marketing and psychology. So nothing related to the world of finance in any way, shape or form. But whilst I was at college, I needed some part-time money to pay for driving lessons and the insurance on my first car and all of those things. And so I managed to get a job working for my dad in his firm, just sort of doing a bit of part-time administration, a little bit of marketing for him. And yeah, that was great. It gave me a little bit of fun money each month. And I kind of got to the end of college. I got my A-levels, and the kind of assumption really was, well, if you've got the grades to go to university, surely you're going to university. And it just seemed to me, and there was a lot of pressure from my sort of tutors and my teachers at the time to sort of say, well, surely you're going to go to university. And I just thought, well, that's not one. The first question is, can we get into university? Have you got the grades? Of course, I appreciate that's the first challenge. But once you have got the grades, surely then the next question is, well, should I go to university? Is that right for me? And for me, I think I'm like most young people at that age. You're very young. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, with my career. I was good at marketing, I was good at psychology, I liked both, I was equally interested in both, and I couldn't get off the fence. And I thought, well, I just don't feel like it's right that I go to university, end up with a degree that I might not use or need or really have a passion for, get into all of that debt. I think that's what really was a thing for me, the debt for something that I wasn't sure about. If I knew I wanted to be a doctor or a teacher and I was going to have to go to university, then of course you're going to make that investment in your further education. But I was so on the fence, and I didn't feel like it was worth getting into that kind of debt for. So I decided, actually, qualifications or not, university wasn't the right path for me, and I was going to go into the workforce. And that really started, and I just assumed I'd get a job in marketing. So, went off and applied and got a job. And then I realized I was going to have to hand my notice in at my dad's firm, for that part-time job. And I realized I felt really quite heartbroken about that, quite sad. The team that was already there, I built good relationships with them. And so I said to my dad, look, actually, I think I'm really sad about leaving. I think I might want to come join full time instead of part time. And him and my mum, who were running the firm together at that point, they both sort of said, oh my God, that's great, we wanted you to come join, but we didn't want to put any pressure on you. So it was really fortuitous. They felt the same way as I did. So I then turned that marketing job down and went and joined them full time. And I just assumed I'd be doing the same sort of thing, administration, bit of marketing for them. But very quickly, Dad was like, no, if you're going to come into the family business, let's go fully into the family business. And so I would work through the day and do my day job with him. And then I would study at home of an evening to start getting my financial qualifications. So yeah, it meant that again, for me, obviously, as a path, everyone learns differently, but I found it really useful because I was learning sort of real life skills, real life experience, meeting clients, seeing clients, watching my dad in action. And that really cemented then all of the technical learning that I was doing at home of an evening with the textbook. So, I think it really sort of supported that. And I personally think it allowed me to kind of probably get my exams that little bit quicker as well, just because of that real life experience sitting alongside. So it meant that, by the time I was 20, I was level 4 certified. I didn't put that to use straight away. I just did power planning to begin with. And then it sort of progressed from there, really. And like I say, I just unexpectedly fell in love with it. Every client is different. Every story, every objective that the client's trying to achieve is different. Every family dynamic is different. No one day is the same for me, and I absolutely adore that. It's the people and the clients, I think, that I completely fell in love with. So
it's so amazing to hear how much you enjoy it and how like passionate and excited you are about the industry. That like definitely shined through. Did you do sort of like explore all the different roles, like start at an administrative level, do a bit of power planning, explore all the roles before you stepped into sort of financial planning?
Yeah, I have done it all. So I started at the bottom of the rung. I started in reception. I worked, like you say, my way through into administration, then into power planning, and then into an advice role. And so, I personally think that's given me, again, that huge breadth of knowledge and that huge breadth of experience and understanding, and as an advisor now, there's things I do that I know will frustrate my power planners if I don't get the right information, if I don't give them enough detail or instruction. And because I was a power planner myself, I think I have much more of an understanding as well of, not just the fun part of the job, which I think is getting to speak to the clients, but it's like, actually, I need to make sure that I get a detailed fact find, that I get all the right information, because that's going to help the power planners do their job. And so, I think there's a much more deeper respect and appreciation for the different roles when you've gone through them all as well, and you've seen them from the different aspects as well. So that, I think, has been hugely valuable.
Yeah, deeper respect, as you said, 100% in regards to you understand sort of what the other job roles entail. Also, I guess it just cements your technical knowledge, probably puts you in a better place to become a financial planner, having gone through all the different roles.
Absolutely. Yeah. By the time I then became sort of client facing, and started seeing clients again around sort of 2013, 2014, started actually seeing clients, sort of having then dealt with clients though on a power planning basis, really it didn't feel like such a big scary leap as well into then an advice role too. So yeah, that was hugely valuable for me, the experience that I've gained. And then obviously, since then been able to go on to doing my chartered as well. So just adding to that technical knowledge all the time, but it is that balance between technical and real life experience. And that's the one thing you can't get from the textbook, is the real life experience.
So you just touched on then, well, you touched on previously that obviously when you were first doing your level 4 diploma, you were studying at home, and you were studying in the evenings and then going in the day, sort of working in at Redwood and in the office. And you said the balance was really important. Why do you think the real life experiences and the technical sort of team together is so valuable?
I think like you say, the textbook is fantastic, obviously, for the technical knowledge and the understanding of what a client can and can't do, and the right products and solutions. But then we've got to remember that behind the textbook they're human beings. Clients are human beings. They have fears, they have hopes and ambitions, they have worries and concerns. And so you have to be, I think, experienced in understanding and picking up on those cues and listening to a client. In a textbook might say, well, this is what you should do every single time. But there are circumstances in the real world where that's just not appropriate for that particular client, or that's, just not going to meet their needs. So I think, like you say, that's hugely important that you get that face-to-face client time, and you get that experience of really learning to be a good listener, asking the right questions of the clients, and those things they don't teach you in the textbook from that point of view. So I think that's a huge part in achieving that balance.
So I guess, as you just said then, the textbook can teach you all the technical knowledge, but it's the actual going out and, working in the office and acting as a point of contact with clients or speaking with clients that's going to help you build the soft skills which you need.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably, if anything, it's those softer skills which lend itself more to an advisor role, in the future. The clients aren't really bothered about the product or the technical stuff. They assume that you've got all of that knowledge and you've got all of that correct. Obviously you have to have it all correct, you have to have the technical knowledge, but really what the client wants is that person that they can have a really good relationship with, trust and good communication, and that they feel like they're being listened to and they're being understood. So especially when you're in an advice role, that those soft skills are so vitally important. And I think, like you say, often can sometimes get undervalued.
Yeah, I completely agree that soft skills set can definitely be very often undervalued. Potentially for someone right now that's sort of studying for their exams, might be in a back office position, wanting to step into client servicing in future. How would you recommend is there any advice that you can give to help them build on that soft skill set?
Yeah, I think obviously there's a couple of different things that I certainly did. As I say, I had the benefit of working, with my father, which was great. So he was a great resource. We did a lot of like role playing. So he would role play and pretend to be a client, and sometimes be a challenging client, sometimes be a really nice, friendly, easy client, and different scenarios. And he'd, fill out initial fact finds and things like that, and would kind of test me, if you like, and so that was kind of good to have that role playing from that side of things. I think the other thing that, if you're in a non-advice role at the moment, if you're in more of an administration or power planning role, is kind of asking your advisors, how can you better help them? How can you add value? And whether that's, asking for the opportunity to come and sit in on some of their meetings so you can see them in action, see their soft skills in action. But also, little things like, if it's just, taking the client through some basic paperwork and getting some signatures, do they need to see the advisor for that? Are they happy for you as the power planner to have like a sort of quick get together with the client and deal with that paperwork? And so those little bits of administration, if you can start taking them off of the advisor's sort of plate, and you can start getting in front of clients to do those things, that's again just going to start building up your experience. You're not seeing them in an advice capacity at that stage, but you're just getting used to talking to them, holding conversations, all those soft skills, asking how they are. And that's just going to slowly build that confidence, I think, as well.
Especially on the recruitment side of things, I deal with lots of candidates, may that be sort of administrators, power planners, people in different back office situations, that want more client contact, but are a bit like apprehensive to like how their firm will react if they ask, as you just said, can I take the lead a bit more? You as a managing director, would you be receptive to one of your employees came and sort of asked you to do something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it shows great initiative. I think it shows great ambition. And obviously, as an advisor and also as a managing director, our time is really busy, and we're running from one meeting to another sometimes, and any support we can have where, a power planner or an administrator says, look, trust me, I can take this off of you, I can see that client and just do that bit of admin, is fantastic, because that just frees up our time as well. So I think it adds huge amounts of value to the business that you're working for. And I don't know many advisors that wouldn't appreciate that kind of extra support, to be honest.
Exactly. I completely agree. And I have this conversation with candidates all the time. If you want more client contact, go and ask the question. So it's great to hear from your perspective as a managing director. So if someone came and sort of asked that to you or said that to you, that you would be sort of receptive to that. So if we go back to
absolutely.
Your beginning of your journey, you sat in your kitchen studying for your level 4 diploma. As you said, you had completed your level 4 diploma by the time that you were 20. Lots of people went, like the usual age of like graduating university is sort of 21. So if you consider, you didn't go to university, but you had that qualification, which is the benchmark within the industry, before potentially all your friends sort of that did go to university, had graduated. So it definitely goes to show, especially for this industry where that level 4 diploma is the benchmark, as much as some sort of university courses or degrees, they'll give you a couple of ROs or something like that, and that'll be combined in the course. Doesn't necessarily add the same amount of value. Pardon me. So, not going to university, you think that like benefited you to a certain extent within this industry as such?
I think so. I think, like you say, in this particular industry, and especially if you do want to ultimately become client facing, that real life experience, like you say, that I wouldn't have got had I gone to university potentially. There's other experiences I would have got from going to university, just from the social side of it. So there's other things that you might still go down that university path if that's right for you. But especially if you don't sort of learn in the traditional way of, lectures and classrooms and things like that, and you learn much more by doing and seeing, being able to work and get work experience inside a practice at the same time as studying, I think massively helped me. And like you say, allowed me to get through my qualifications a lot quicker, because I think a lot of that knowledge was cemented a lot quicker for me, seeing it in the real life action. And then, as I say, it's definitely accelerated, I think, my relationship with clients, accelerated my journey to become client facing, because I've not had to do the kind of technical study for so many years before I can then even get in front of a client or see a practice in action. So that's definitely accelerated things, and was the right decision for me, absolutely. And I think hopefully other people might now appreciate it could be a path for them as well, because, as I say, it's that almost that assumption of, well, if you have a certain level of A-level results or certain amount of grades, you have to go to university. Well, actually, who says you have to? It has got its value for a lot of people, of course it has, but just because it's expected or conventional doesn't
But it's exactly the same for me. When I did my A levels, it was uni. I went to uni. I loved uni. As you said, it added lots of value in lots of different ways. But am I using my degree now? No. Am I ever probably going to use my degree? Probably not, to be honest. And it is that sort of changing the narrative as such, that especially at those school leavers, you don't have to go to university. And as we know, the financial planning industry in the long run is suffering a skill shortage as such. As more financial planners across the next set of 10 years and such retire, there's going to be an even larger skill shortage. So you obviously became a school leaver and joined a financial planning firm. Obviously your dad being a financial advisor is a key reason for this. But how do we encourage more people at school level to join a wealth management firm?
I think there's just generally there's a lack of education at school level across the board, really, about good financial money management. There are kids leaving school at 16, going into apprenticeships and jobs, and they don't even know how to open a bank account or run a simple budget, when they start getting a monthly income for the first time. And if we look at the kind of wealth gap that there is across the UK, where the rich essentially get richer and the poor stay poorer, a lot of that is around good financial education. If they're not learning it at home in terms of money management, debt management, budgeting, all those kinds of things, they're not learning it in school. So they're just kind of doomed to repeat the same kind of process and come away from school being sort of really bad with money. And it's not something, for some reason, that's not part of the curriculum. And I think if it was, not only would we have younger people leave college and school more informed and better at managing their own money once they go into the workforce, but also there would be some people as part of that education process that would go, oh, actually, I find this quite interesting. And that then in turn might lead them down actually a career path in this area. But because it's not even discussed anywhere in the curriculum, I think it's really hard for younger people really to even understand that a career in finance, could be an option for them.
Yeah. So do you think that by potentially teaching children at a younger age level about their finances, may that be, basic budgeting, how to apply for a mortgage, what your taxes even are, you think by educating children at this younger level about finances, they will obviously become more aware of financial planning and encourage more people to become financial planners or join the profession in the future?
Absolutely. I think, like you say, that would be the obvious benefit of doing that, as well as I say, just improving the overall knowledge and education about how people manage their money.
Exactly. I completely agree. Because when we speak, especially about, and I've spoken about it before on the podcast, it is definitely like a recurring theme that we need to have more conversations about money, especially when especially on the recruitment side, when I recruit for roles that are a bit more entry level, lots of people aren't even aware of financial planning. So it definitely goes to show that the knowledge gap as such. And flipping the coin on its head, though, as we said, there is a skill shortage, not only by offering these financial education to younger people. It's not just important for their own financial futures, but, it can also really help the profession by educating them, getting people interested about it, and encouraging
Yeah.
them to join the industry in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Which, like you say, is what we need.
Yeah, 100%. And Jasmine, you are a young female financial planner. So there's an element of intersectionality with yourself, because I've had conversations with female financial planners and they have certain experiences and face certain barriers due to being a female financial planner. And I speak to younger age profile financial planners that face barriers as such because they're a younger age profile. But you have had the combination of the both, which I'm sure has displayed its own challenges as such. But a recurring theme when I speak to these individuals, may that be female financial planners, younger age profile financial planners, is that they can sometimes feel there's a lack of confidence within themselves. So how have you sort of built your confidence over time?
Well, I'm definitely, I'm going to take the young part there as a compliment. I don't feel young anymore, but I was certainly young when I started out. I think there was a couple of things, I guess, that kind of happened, I suppose, very early on, and thankfully, again, I had a great mentor in my father. So I was really fortunate in that, in the sense that he drilled into me really from quite a young age, from the start of the career, really, that, you know, our job is to make sure that we are confident in what we do. And when we give advice to clients, if we're on the fence, if we're not sure, if we come across like we're not entirely confident in what we're saying, they're going to doubt us. They're going to have a lack of confidence in us. And that means they could potentially walk out and not do the important planning that they need to do. And if that means they don't take out that life insurance because I've not been confident about how important that is, and then they go and have a critical illness or die and leave their spouse with a mortgage and there's nothing to pay it off, or if they leave the office and they've not done that will, you know, there are quite serious ramifications. You know, I know we're not doctors and we're not saving people's lives, but we are having a really big impact on people's lives. And so I think my dad instilled in me from the beginning that if there's nothing else that you do, your job is to make sure that you impress upon your clients the impact and the outcomes if they don't take your advice, and the downsides and what could go wrong. And you have to just be confident and get off the fence and tell your clients what they need to do to protect themselves, to build their wealth, whatever it is that they're worried or concerned about. Because the worst thing you can do is do a disservice to them by not giving them that ability to be confident into you. So very early on, I kind of went into all of my client meetings just with the viewpoint of, you know, you're here for advice. The client needs help. The client is looking for answers. What reason is there to doubt my advice? You know, so having that confidence in my skills and my knowledge and my experience, I just went in just assuming that you're going to listen to me regardless of the fact that I'm a woman or I'm young. I just assume that you're here and you're going to listen to my advice because I'm the advisor. And so I think there's an element of, I think that naturally just came out in my body language, and that confidence, I think, just came through. So the clients then had confidence in it. So that's not to say that some people aren't discriminated against because of their gender or because of their age or anything like that. Absolutely, I'm sure it does happen. But for me personally, that's not been my experience. And I think part of that is just because I've just gone into those meetings expecting that there was going to be that respect for my advice, my knowledge and my skills. And I think that's then come through in my body language and the way in which I conducted myself. And so the client felt comfortable. The client didn't feel the need to question anything due to my gender or my age. And the other thing I think I really did, and it's funny, I still do it to this day, so it just shows you that it works, is I do a lot of like visualization. So like I'm really into the psychology of kind of mind over matter and that kind of stuff. And I really do think, like, you know, if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. And it is sometimes that simple. So, you know, I, from the beginning, kind of made like a track in my mind of like, this is how my client meetings are going to go. So we're going to start with, you know, welcoming them, and then we're going to go through the fact find stuff, and then we're going to ask them some questions about this, and not a sort of script. So it's not kind of cold or anything like that. It's not like a script, but kind of in my head, I have this agenda, this running order, which basically says, right, this is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to explain how we work and the costs and charges. And then, you know, the client's then going to ask some really interesting, good questions. And then the client's going to say, yeah, let's proceed. And I kind of use that kind of track to visualize, about 15 minutes before I have a meeting. No matter what meeting I'm having, I use those 15 minutes to make sure that I'm fully prepared. I know who I'm seeing. I know what they're coming to see me about, what their worries and concerns are. If they're an existing client or a new client, I know all of that stuff. And I use those 15 minutes before to then just literally close my eyes and visualize them coming in, them being really warm and welcoming and greeting, sitting down, having a bit of a chat, going through that process of the meeting, and then being really happy and confident with me at the end and saying, yes, they want to move forward. And I visualize that meeting going well. And then funnily enough, we go into the meeting and the meeting goes well. So I think it very much for me is that's another trick or a tip, I guess, that, as I say, I used in the beginning was that visualization, but I still do it now. I still prep for every single meeting. I still do that visualization now, even after all these years, because that's what gives me the confidence to go, yeah, I've got this. And it's definitely a psychological thing, I think.
Yeah, 100%. As you just touched on then to begin with, it's mind over matter, isn't it? If you,
100%.
as much as we can talk about all these different barriers and things like that, and as you just said, they definitely happen. I've spoken to so many candidates and individuals that have gone through all these different experiences, but it's all about your mentality at the end of the day. And if you don't feel confident, it's definitely going to resonate. So it's a really nice tip there in regards to the sort of the visualization. I completely agree. And this is just aside from, financial plan or anything. If you think something is going to go badly, it probably is going to go badly. But
you've predetermined, you've predestined it to go badly. If, like you say, if you walk into that meeting thinking, oh, this client's really difficult, they're going to ask loads of difficult questions, they're going to have loads of barriers.
Yeah.
You're going to find those things happen because you've just, like you say, you've worked yourself up. And I believe it's so self-fulfilling. Like you say, you've preordained it really. So if you walk in going, this is going to be a great meeting, you're going to love me, I'm going to love you, we're going to get along like a house on fire, it's going to be great. It's really hard for it to go the other way.
Yeah. And I think that visualization, that's a really good tip for the audience out there. Maybe if you are feeling a little bit nervous before you're going into client meetings for one reason or another, visualizing that it's going to go well, and backing yourself at the end of the day. And I guess it all ties in with the facts we touched on before. Preparation is key, and you can only visualize it and do this whole thing of sitting there and plan how the meeting's going to go if you have prepared yourself. So
absolutely,
preparation is key.
Yeah. And I think it also lends itself as well. So many of my clients will be impressed that I've come prepared to the meeting, that I remember things that we said from our last meeting, or that I've got, all the right information to hand. So I think that also then in turn is again self-fulfilling, because the client can see that preparation. They can see that you're prepared for them. They feel valued and respected. And then you're going to get the same, back. It's a very reciprocal thing. So like you say, I don't think you can ever be too prepared. And the danger is that as you get more experienced, as you get older, you think, oh, I don't need to do that. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to prep. I can just go straight into a meeting. Well, there are times when, just because things are really busy, I don't get to do my full prep, and my meetings are always never as smooth, always more rushed. And I always finish those meetings going, oh, I could have been better, And so even now, after all this time, that's why I still do that prep. I still do that visualization work and that prep work.
It's with anything though, even, with myself, if I have a meeting that I'm feeling particularly anxious about, or, I have something that I'm a bit more nervous about, if I don't do anything and sit on it, by the time that meeting comes, I am going to be stressed. But if I take the time out before, a couple of days before, and then on the day to go through it, make sure I'm feeling prepared, I will go into a meeting that I was nervous about, knowing that I am going to smash it, because I have laid in the groundwork and I visualized it. So I think this is a really nice little couple of tips. If you're out there potentially not feeling very confident or feeling a bit anxious about certain things, preparation is key. And, tell yourself that you can do it. Get yourself into the positive mind frame, because if you're going in there telling yourself that it's going to be great, it probably is going to go great.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've spoken about, and I speak with advisors all the time about that transition from sort of back office into client facing. However, you have done the transition from just being a financial planner into being a managing director. So how was that transition from sort of being an advisor into management?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly easier, I think, going from power planner to advisor. That was much more organic because at least it was still related to being client facing and related to financial services. Going from, an advisor to a leader to a managing director, and suddenly having to have entrepreneurial skills or, leadership skills of an entire team. That was much more scary. That was much more scary. That was a big challenge, and there was the kind of physical stuff, I guess, that happened quite quickly in terms of, freeing up my diary and having days where I didn't see clients and I worked primarily on the business as opposed to in the business. But I think mentally, again, psychologically, it took a while for my brain to kind of catch up and go, oh no, you are the managing director now. You can make these decisions on your own. You don't have to check in with someone else or ask permission. But also then the fear of all of those decisions are on my shoulders as well. So if you make the wrong call, there's literally no one else to blame but yourself. And so really, I think, for me, what I had to do is I had to do a lot of education. I had to go back to school really, because I had all my technical qualifications to be an advisor, but I then basically went back to school, and of an evening would then read every book that I could possibly get on management and leadership, and entrepreneurial skills, and every business book from every fantastic business owner that's out there. I would just read and try and get as much information and knowledge as I could in that area, because again, it's not something they teach you at school or even through the technical qualifications and exams. So that was really something that I had to work on 100%. And I think part of that also came with, again, that confidence and that acceptance to go, actually, I might be the managing director, but I am also still human. And so sometimes I have some great ideas for the business that are fantastic and they do great things. And there are other times when I have ideas that are really rubbish and just completely flop. And that's okay. I think having that vulnerability, and especially, leading by example for the rest of the team, it is okay to make mistakes. I'm the managing director and I still make mistakes. I still have ideas which are absolutely awful. And I look back now and go, oh, I can't believe I thought that was going to be a good idea, or I thought that was going to go well. I just think as long as you can use anything like that as a learning process, and we've got like a little saying in our team of, if you're not winning, you're learning. So if we're not winning and we're not getting it right, then we're learning. And actually that just helps us get quicker to the next win and move on to the next win. So we don't really say like we've made mistakes or we've messed up. We literally, if something doesn't go right, we just go, well, if you're not winning, you're learning. And that's kind of the viewpoint that we've had to take.
I love that. I'm going to take that with me moving forward, Jasmine. I actually really like that, because you've also got to, we just touched on, you've got to take, even if it's a failure, you've got to take the positive out of that. Nothing is ever a failure. Maybe you didn't handle something in the right way, but now you know how to handle it in that correct way moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I, the same way that I speak with lots of back office people that want to step into client facing, I obviously speak with lots of advisors that want to take that leap into management. I know you touched on obviously going back and reading books and things like that. What advice would you potentially give to people that want to take that leap into sort of management or senior level in regards to their firm?
Yeah, I think, again, I think it's about breaking it down into stepping stones. When we talk about like my journey, I didn't go from advisor straight into managing director. Actually, what happened is, whilst I was advising and seeing clients, I was also I started off doing a bit of like team leader roles. When I was a power planner, we had a team of power planners and I would be the kind of team leader of those power planners. And then I kind of moved into like an office manager role where like the day-to-day operations of the business was kind of my job. And my father was still the MD and made all the crucial decisions. So I got little stepping stones, if you like, and I managed to dip my toe into management. And it started off maybe by only looking after a couple of team members, and then it goes to the whole office. And so you started to amass those skills a little bit, which definitely then aided obviously making that bigger leap from advisor straight into managing director from that point of view. So obviously the reading, I think, is a huge thing. But then, like you say, asking for more responsibility. If you are in a power planner administrator role, you're looking, as you say, to actually move into more of a management role, going to the managing director, the leadership team, and saying, I want more responsibility. How can I add more value to the business? How can I take on more responsibility so that I can grow my management skills, and just see what they start giving you from that, and take those opportunities as and when they're given to you. But you have to ask for them. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's just, again, my general view on things, is if you want something, you've got to ask for it. You've got to go for it.
I completely agree. I think this is good also for the audience out there, especially also when we touched on previously in regards to sort of back office people that potentially want a bit more client contact, building that soft skills, financial planners that potentially want to step into senior management. You don't ask, you don't get. If you want that extra responsibility, go speak to your line managers, go speak to the directors of the company, ask how you can get involved, because how are they supposed to know that you've got these ambitions and help you nurture them if they're not aware of them themselves?
I mean, unless you work for a really small company and it is kind of, everyone's really close and tight knit, like you say, they're not going to know you've got those ambitions if you don't make it clear. So absolutely.
But Redwood Financial is close and tight-knit with the Redwood family. And I think this leads on to really nicely onto something that I want to speak about, especially on the recruitment side of things. Obviously, we touched on this in our previous conversation, that family-owned businesses can sometimes have a bit of a negative stigma. And it's normally because someone has had a negative experience at one firm. And obviously, not every firm is great, but you also can't taint, you can't, taint everyone with the same brush as such. So I guess to explain, often pushback I get on family-owned businesses on the recruitment side of things is, it's cliquey, it's all the family that get promoted and I'm not going to get promoted. And, it's the daughter over, me, or the son over me. And that's, sometimes how it can be perceived. How do you create that feeling of belonging within sort of a family-run business?
Yeah. Well, I think anyone that's had that experience, you haven't met my dad, because my dad, God love him, my dad, God love him, is so brutally honest. And it's a wonderful trait. You always know exactly where you stand with him. And from the beginning, when I came into the business, he was always very clear with me, but also publicly to the rest of the team. He would say, look, you're my daughter. Of course, I'm going to make sure that you're always okay. So if you need a job, you've got a job. I'll always make sure you've got a roof over your head and you've got enough money coming in to pay your bills. But if the only thing you're good enough to do is to make tea and, do a bit of filing and faxing, that's where you'll stay. And that's the job that you'll have, and the salary that goes with it. Anything else from here on out, that's on you. And Dad was really brutally honest with that, and was like, you're not getting anything more than just a foot in the door because you're my daughter. Everything else is on you to push for. And if you want to go further, and if you want to see clients and earn more money, that's on you. You've got to do that. So, and Dad, as I say, said that to my face and was brutally honest to my face, but also would say it to the rest of the team. So I think they were very clear of, oh yeah, she's not getting any special treatment. Literally, if I was rubbish, he would have made sure I still had a job, but he would not have let me progress to any other position, no matter how senior, without the right skill sets or without being the right person. And hopefully that's how most family businesses should run. Is it should be based on skills and who's the right person for the job, regardless of the family relationship. But as I do appreciate, that's maybe not always the case. In terms of how we've kind of tackled it, like you say, not wanting it to feel cliquey, we refer to the whole team as the Redwood family. Yes, there's a few of us that are related, but we refer to everyone as the Redwood family. And it's so funny. We get really, really defensive when people refer to the rest of the team as staff. It's such a silly little word, but it really bugs us. So Holly, who's my sister, she's our operations director. If someone external refers to the rest of the team as our staff, she's like, they're not our staff. They're part of our team. They're our family. And we're so protective of that, not wanting to feel cliquey, wanting it to feel like a family. And the other way that we do that is we also give shares in the business. So after a year of working with us at Redwood, they don't have to invest or contribute anything. We just give them shares in the family business. They're issued with a share certificate, and they now become a shareholder and have a stake in the business with us. And that's so important, again, psychologically, but just sort of from that mentality of then they now are part of something, can actually, each year when the business makes a profit, we all get to share in that profit. And because they're shareholders in the business, we're really honest with them. We open the accounts, we show them the books, they know how the business is doing, turnover, profit wise, which again is very unusual for a lot of companies to do that with every member of the team. So Chloe, who is our wonderful receptionist, she's been with us now several years. She has shares in the business. Doesn't matter whether you're the receptionist or an advisor or a power planner, every single one of them as a shareholder sees the business, sees the performance, and we all get to share in the profit. So we really all feel like we're working towards something for all of us to have a benefit in, not just the directors, not just the family owners of the business. It is all of us. And that's been a really big thing that we've done over the years now, to really make sure that we're living by what we're saying. It's all good and well saying, oh yeah, everyone's part of the Redwood family, but then actually shouldn't we all share in that, in that profit? When the business wins, we all win. And obviously if the business has a bad year, we all feel that pain, we all, so we there is really that sense of community, I think, from doing that.
I think that must be so valuable and so powerful and so encouraging, because as you just touched on, it's not just the family owners or the people directly in the family that are seeing the benefits of the business doing well. It's everyone. And, over the long term as well, that encourages the whole Redwood family to work harder and invest so much into their work, because everyone's going to see the rewards. It's not just the select few, it's everyone's. And I think for potentially other family run businesses that are out there, or directors or owners of family run businesses that are watching this, this is a really, really encouraging way to make sure that everyone feels part of it. And as you said, everyone reaps the rewards because everyone's working just as hard as each other.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think it's just something as a family business, you have to be more mindful of that culture. Any business, with any like hierarchy or leadership team, has the potential to be cliquey, and needs to monitor that. But I think, as you say, as a family business, going into it, the apprehension is almost, it's definitely going to be cliquey. So culturally, we really have to watch that and combat that, and make sure that we're going above and beyond even a normal firm to make sure that it's not that way.
Yeah. And this must be, will be really encouraging to the audience out there that are part of family run businesses, maybe within one or the director of one, that you can combat that culture. There doesn't have to be this perception of clickiness and stuff like that. The complete opposite. You can extend your family, and you can have the little Redwood family, as you can have a family of more than just the direct view. It can be everyone involved. And I'm sure Redwood Financial is an absolutely amazing place to work for lots of reasons, including that. But Jasmine, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Financial Planner Live podcast today. We have covered so many topics that I'm sure are going to be are super interesting for the audience. May that be the intersectionality of being a young and female financial planner, how to take that step from sort of advisor into management, and how to make a family business feel like a proper family inclusive place to work. So thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me today, Jasmine, and it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.